What's up, guys? So today I'm over here on our Matsuura MAM 72-35V, and I'm gonna be making some super aggressive cuts in this chunk of 4140. Now, a lot of you in the comments section, when you see us do a full slotting video, you say, we would never do that in a real part. Well, here's a case where I actually would do that. You can see we got a bunch of pockets, got a bunch of ports. So, without further ado, let's get our material loaded in our PC40 and start making some chips. Oh, it's heavy. Now take a look at our fixturing here. We got this little bitty vise, and we're only holding on to a 100thou dovetail. Now that may seem a little bit sketchy, but I know that this shank vise has got the holding force that I'm gonna need to do all the aggressive cuts that we're about to do. Here we go. Yeah! All right, we're ready to rumble. All right, so you see this first cut we're taking, the face off the top of our part, I'm using polar interpolation. Now, I've seen a lot of questions in the comments about why I do that. Now, in some cases, you really want to use polar interpolation, like if you want your OD to be perfectly concentric to your center of rotation. In this case, the only reason I'm using polar interpolation is because it looks cooler. Cool is important. So I want to look at this and show you guys how polar interpolation works in SolidCAM. So here you see I have two face mill operations. If I go in and simulate those, you'll see that the first operation is using the X and Y axis and just going around and around our part and working its way in towards center in a spiral. Now in the second operation, you see what we saw on the machine, that instead of using the X and Y axes, we're using the X and the C axis. So now our whole part and fixture are spinning and the tool's only moving in the X direction. Now the way that we do that in the tool path is if we open that up and we go to our motion control tab, you can see here a checkbox for fourth axis. Now I've chosen polar coordinate type and the XC plane. And that's all you have to do to get that tool path to output as a polar operation. All right, now for our next tool, we're gonna center drill a little hole right in the center of our stock. Now this is very important. The MAM has a hydraulic tailstock. So when I drill that hole, I can't use dynamic work offsets if my part is off center. Because once that trunnion flips 90, the tailstock's gonna come out straight to the center of rotation. The next thing I wanted to look at is this tool path, tailstock positioning. Now I added that by using a machine control operation. And if we go under our technology tab, you'll see tailstock positioning. Now when I choose tailstock positioning, what happens is my fourth axis kicks minus 90 degrees, my fourth axis locks, and then the hydraulic tailstock comes out and makes contact with my part. All right, this time we're doing some polar interpolation again. And the purpose of this tool path is just to get rid of all the scale on the outside of our part. That way we don't put undue stress on our cutting tool. And once again, we have another polar tool path type. Now if you take a look at this tool path, you'll see that the center of my tool isn't pointing at my center of rotation. And the reason that I did this is because I didn't want to be cutting with the center of my ball end mill. The way that we did this is if you take a look inside the operation at the tool axis control, you'll see that I gave it a lag angle of 30 degrees. Now, whenever you're cutting with a ball end mill, ideally you're gonna be at least 15 degrees lag angle. The reason that you do this is because if you have 0 degrees, you're not only cutting with the center of your ball, but you're also only using 2 flutes of your cutter. If you're using a tool that has 3 flutes or more, you need to be at least 15 degrees and ideally 22 degrees, and I went a little bit beyond that and went 30. By going 30 degrees, I'm actually cutting with a bigger diameter on my tool, which means I'm actually getting the surface footage that I have programmed into this tool path. All right, so these flats that we're putting on right now aren't doing anything other than giving us a nice flat spot for our big drill to come in and pop a hole on. This is the Harvey 2 TE. So it's a 5-flute version of my favorite tool, the Harvey 1 TE, and today I'm kind of testing it out because I haven't used one before. So we're gonna see what this thing can do. The next thing I want to show you guys is how easy it is to transform a toolpath in SolidCAM. So if we take a look at this operation, and this is where we put the flats on for our big 1¼ drill to pre-drill our pockets. If we right-click on that toolpath and click Transform and Rotate by Delta, we can put in our number of rotations, which in this case is 5. We're going to equally space those, and our angle range is going to be 360 degrees. I want to rotate around our Mach 1-2 position and the Y-axis. So if we say OK and save, now you can see that that toolpath rotated around and is doing the same thing on all 5 sides of the part. Now if you take a look at all these toolpaths and you see this little tiny R there, that means that there's a rotation translation being applied to that toolpath. Now, with a drill this big all the way out on the end of our part, normally we would have some problems with stability of our workpiece. But because we have that hydraulic tailstock pinning our part to the vise, we got absolutely no problem. Drill sounds great. See, that's why the MAM 72 is one of my favorite machines. Not only is it super accurate, super rigid, but it also has really cool features that come standard, like our little windshield wiper here, or options like the hydraulic tailstock. If you guys are in the market for a 5-axis mill, this machine is an absolute beast. So if you're interested in learning more, check out our website or email keith@titansofcnc.com. Yes, get some! Now during normal operation, I would be running this drill quite a bit faster, feed rate wise. The reason that I'm not and the reason that I'm pecking with it right now is because we're running dry for camera. I don't have any coolant or through air going through this tool, so I'm trying to be a little bit careful. See that? We're full slotting with a 3/4 inch tool, and we're barely hitting 60% of our spindle load. Not too shabby, Matsuura. And Matsuura makes their own spindles, so here you can see they make a pretty darn good spindle. Get some! Now, I needed these pieces of 4140 pretty quick, so I'd like to give a shout out to Jessica and the whole team at Pride Metals for getting this material to me right when I needed it. So if you guys are in need of any kind of steel, reach out to Pride Metals. Now once I got the part rough to this state, I went ahead and added a 3D eye machining toolpath. That's going to be the easiest way for me to get rid of any of the rest material that's left on my part. Now one thing I wanted to mention is that with a part like this, the order of operations is extremely important. So the first thing that I knew is because I was going to be doing this part on the MAM 72, I knew I had the hydraulic tailstock. So I wanted to make sure that I got everything I possibly could done before I pulled that tailstock out of my part. Now something else that I had to consider is a lot of these toolpaths were very aggressive. So where normally I would probably leave 10 thousandths for a finish pass, on this part I was leaving 30. What that accomplishes is if my part relieves at all, I know I'm going to have enough stock left to clean up during my finishing. You may look at this tool path and wonder why I'm wasting my time helixing these holes a little bit deeper when the whole inside of the part's going to be pocketed out. Well, these holes that I'm making are going to allow our chips to escape from our deep 3-inch pocket during the next operation. There you go. Now you can see why I had to make those holes deeper, because you can see all the chips flying out through the sides of the part. The last thing I wanted to talk about was SolidCam's Swarf toolpath. It was super easy to use this, so all I had to do was, for my geometry, I chose my Swarf surface, which is the surface that I want to machine. And then I had to pick a upper curve and a lower curve. If we take a look at our upper curve, it's just the top curve of that surface, and our lower curve is just the bottom curve of that surface. Under tool axis control, I selected 5-axis for my output format. And apart from that, all you got to do is choose your tool and your feeds and speeds. So if we take a look at our machine simulation, you can see what's happening is the 4th axis is kicked over to about 45 degrees. Our tool enters into our cut and our part spins. This allows us to cut that whole surface in one pass rather than having the surface mill it with a ball end mill. All in all, SolidCam made this part super easy to program. So let's get back to making some chips. All right, so right now we're using our OSG AT1 thread mill, and we're making a thread that's 1.5 inches deep with a 461 diameter tool. It's pretty impressive that it's able to get that all in one shot, one pass, and have good threads. All right, so the first operation of our part is complete. The only thing left to do now is take it over to Travis so we can throw it in the lathe, turn off the backside, and finish the remaining features. And to all of you in the comments who are saying that you would never full slot on an actual part, you just saw me do it. So the full slot strategy does have a time and a place where it makes sense to use it. So the next time you're looking at a part that you're programming, don't overlook the full slot. I hope you guys liked today's video. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys again soon.